How do you make a Meet the Fleet video that you just posted obsolete after only 3 days? You get another loco. Let's get my first impressions after these titles. Hey everybody, Anthony Dodge, the Model Train Outsider, the Märklin Outsider here with you. And I have a new loco, except it's not really new. This is an amazing story. Again, maybe not as amazing as my horse stories, but this is a gift from a channel member. This is from Andy81E. It is a Class 186 electric locomotive, which is in the Railpool livery, and I'll give you a closer look, as I always do, in a little bit. It's in the Railpool livery, and it's multinational, but centered in Germany. And they go, they're freight haulers mostly, although I have seen them even sublet back to Deutsche Bahn, pulling some regional traffic carriages at times, but it's primarily a freight hauler. So this is an amazing gift. Now, why did he give it to me? Because he's a guy in the UK who runs UK and continental trains, and he bought this off of eBay a few years ago, he says, and it's 3-rail, and he runs 2-rail. He had no use for it, so it's been sitting around in his collection for a few years, and he finally, after watching my channel for a while, he's been on my channel for a while now, he just, in a live feed about 3-4 weeks ago, he said, hey, I've got this 186, would you want it? And I was like, yeah, I've been wanting a 186. It's been at the bottom of my list with other things I'm getting and saving up for. He says, well, it's yours for free. I said, no, you got to let me pay for it. And he's like, no, it's a gift. No, let me pay for it. It's a gift. Let me send it to you. And he said one of the nicest things, maybe BS, but he said, no, it's me paying you back for all the entertainment you've done with your live streams over the years. And I'm like, okay, that would just make me want to give more money. Like, I got to pay you for the compliment too. But be that as it may, give it to me. Now, this is out of a starter set. This is from a starter set which was first released in 2011, but it was released continuously into the beginning of 2014. It's the starter set 29450, and you got a loop of track with a siding, the digital handheld controller called the Mobile Station 2 Generation 1 because it's in gray. Generation 2 is the same exact thing in black. Don't confuse Generation 1 of Mobile Station 2 with Mobile Station 1. It's crazy. Okay, so anyhow, it's in a starter pack. So it's part of a starter set, and you got some freight cars, flatbed. I'm trying to remember. I think it was flatbeds. I'm going to put a picture up, and then you'll see what else it came with. I'm going a little bit from memory, which is stupid when I could have stopped the video and done it. Anyhow, so it's a high quality starter set, but I'm not entirely sure if that was the marketing strategy because it's also listed in their hobby range, and the decoder only has a couple of functions on it. It's the lights, and its lights are not, they're directional, but they're forward only. So it's got the white headlights, it doesn't have the red taillights. Okay. So it's a basic decoder. I think it's a MM2. I'll look it up later. When I went to put it into my Central Station 3, if it's an MFX or MFX Plus, my Central Station 3 will just automatically read it. Even some later MM2s, my Central Station 3 will automatically read them. I don't have to do anything. It just says, oh, you've got this decoder, which is found in this locomotive, puts it in. Now, it didn't automatically load up. So, if this were a non-Märklin, I'd have to enter it manually. I'd have to tell the Central Station 3 to either find it, list its functions, and then tell it what it is, or I would have to just go in manually and type everything in. However, because it's a Märklin, all I had to do was go into the Central Station 3 database and click in the set number 29450, and boom, it automatically loaded all the information in. So I wasn't able to get the detailed stuff. If I had loaded it in manually or told the Central Station 3 to find it, was that we have found an MM1 or an MM2 decoder, but instead it just loaded it all up. Address 24, 2 functions, ready to go. All right, so anyhow, it has a basic decoder which is easily upgradable to the Märklin electric locomotive tracks decoder, which is, I believe, 60979. I'm trying to remember, because I think I am going to do that. But anyhow, let's have a closer look at this, run it in, and then do the incline test, and then I'll come back with my first impressions.
So what we have here is a Class 186 electric freight locomotive in the Railpool private company livery. This locomotive comes out of a starter set. It comes out of the starter set 29450, which I'll put a picture up here. And if you look, you can see that it would come with a digital controller, the Märklin Mobile Station 2 version 1 in gray. They're now black, but it's still Mobile Station 2. You would have gotten an oval of track and a siding, and you got 2 or 3 freight cars to pull with it. Now, this is not new. This set was first released in 2011, and I think it was produced yearly until 2013. But let's take a closer look at it. It is well done. It is a metal chassis and housing, shell, if you want to call it, a metal chassis and shell. A lot of plastic in the upper works, but no big deal. The horns on the top, clearly plastic. But I'm not uptight about that. They're horns, it's what they're there to. And again, this is free, so I'm definitely not going to criticize it at all. But typical, even at this era, the printing on it, even in the smallest detail, is clear and legible. All the details about the company. It is Railpool, which is a private firm, although they occasionally do sublet their locomotives back to Deutsche Bahn. And this really fit the bill for me. It is a heavier hauler. I've got a Class 187. This is a Class 186 now. And I really would like to get a Class 185 just to cover that string of them. So it gives me one more freight hauler. I really do like the livery on it. And again, when it's mixed with all my red locomotives from Deutsche Bahn, it's going to stand out more, but I think it stands out here as well. Now, this was from a starter set, so it's not going to be the high-end decoder and everything else, at least in this starter set, because their starter sets do range, but this is from their hobby level starter set. So they weren't going to put their biggest decoder in there. In fact, this only has, technically, 2 functions, officially 2 functions, but really only one. And the only function it really has is lights. It only has the headlights. It only has forward directional lighting. There are no red tail lights on this. I don't even know if it's technically set up for those, that you could put in a higher end decoder and the red lights would also then shine. I'm going to find out, because I am going to put in a higher decoder in this. But this has a base decoder, and I'm happy to have it. I just would like it to be able to do the sounds and that. So this is a very sharp locomotive. And even though it is used, from my understanding, this has been sitting unused for a few years. So the first thing I did when I got it, and I did not get this in the box, I didn't get this in a kit. This was just sent to me as you see it. So, but it was sent very well, packed very well. But what I did was I took off the shell, made sure the decoder was okay, and then I just cleaned. I cleaned the motor, and I oiled the chassis. Anywhere where I think there should be oil, I did it. And unlike most of my videos, I have already run this in. So we are going to go ahead and put this guy in motion and see how it handles the incline. And it is preset to a maximum speed of 120 kilometers an hour. So about 80, 90 miles an hour. 75 miles an hour. 120 kilometers an hour is 75 miles an hour. Sorry, forgot my metric there. But we're gonna go ahead and run him at about half speed, so 60 miles an hour. And we're gonna send him off. And as you can hear, there's just a little bit of a whir in his engine. But we're running him about 60 kilometers an hour. So here he goes, and he is heading right up to that incline. There's the incline. Let's see. I heard the motor almost hesitate, but it didn't seem to hesitate. So first run, especially after not having run for a few years, maybe never having really run. I just don't know its history. So we're gonna catch it going around again. And we're gonna speed it up just as it gets to the corner there. So now we're up to 75 kilometers an hour. Maybe a slight hesitation again, but I think it's more of a sound change than even the locomotive slowing down.
All right, so there you got a closer look at it, and I talked about running it in, and you saw it do the incline test, which I think it passed very well. So again, let's repeat, 504 grams. This is a heavy locomotive. I did not, when I was cleaning the motor, I didn't really investigate deeply to see if it was a 3-pole or a 5-pole motor. I'm assuming it's a 5-pole. When I ran it in, it started like some of these old, because I took it apart before after I installed it on the Central Station 3 and tried to get to work on the Central Station 3. I didn't talk about this earlier. It struggled moving and really acted like it wasn't getting good contact. So the first thing I did was just take it apart, dust it out, but the motor was clean inside. Everything was clean. But I just rubbed it down just in case there was something there. Vacuumed it up a little bit. And then I just put pin drops of oil in all the places that need lubricant. And then I redid the axles. And then I took Conducta lube and I cleaned the ski really well. I polished that up really well. And then when I put it on the test track here to make sure it was working, it was doing just fine. It moved back and forth. There were some jitters to it, but again, this has not run in many years. So I was pleased to see that. So once I set it up to run in, it took a couple of loops, and then it started running really smooth. There is a little bit of sound in the engine. The motor is a little bit noisier than I think it should be, but there's nothing that specifically says, oh, I need to check this. It just might be a slightly noisy motor, or it might have some gunk I didn't clean out very well or didn't oil enough. But it ran smoothly forward and backwards half an hour, because even though it was a used locomotive, it hasn't been run in years, because Andy had it for years before he gave it to me. And I think it shows some sign of being run. The ski showed some wear on it, so at least it had been run in, if nothing else. But usually I have to run those a few times before the ski starts showing, the pickup shoe, we call it the ski, when it starts showing a little bit of wear. But this shows just cursory, again, it could have just been run in and run around a couple of times and then never used again. But it had been run before Andy bought it. So what are my first impressions? I think it's fantastic. It's an amazing looking locomotive. For a starter set locomotive, it's quite impressive. Weight, detail. Yes, there's a lot of plasticky stuff on the top, but the shell is metal, the chassis is metal, all the gears are metal. So it shows it in its weight, 504 grams. It's a gift, so I probably would not be doing a video if it were a piece of crap. I would have said, Andy, hey, it's messed up, I'm going to have to send it out and get fixed. Not saying anything, because it's a free gift. But I'm doing the video just because it's an amazing gift. I mean, to get this for free, the starter kit would have cost anywhere in 2011 would have cost 200 to 250 euros, maybe more. And that's 100 euros for the controller and track. It's all boxed up, so you save a percentage on each thing. That's the whole point of a starter set. They give you everything in a nice bundle. But this still would have been, some of their starter sets are 200 euros, and you take the loco out, and it's very plastic. This isn't. So I'm very impressed with it. It handled the incline well. I didn't do it with any hauling yet. We'll give it a try with the hauling at some time. I was not planning on running freight on my next live stream, but either I'm going to run a small freight train with this guy, or I'm going to give him some passenger cars, because every now and then you'll see the Railpool pulling some passenger cars. Deutsche Bahn sublets them from Railpool when they're in need and may put them to use, but usually this is freight only, the 186s. But anyhow, I'm really happy with it. The coloring, the livery on it's really nice. It stands out with against all my red locomotives especially. It's another loco, and I'm very happy with it. Time is the only judge. But when you do like this locomotive or that P8, which is from the 80s, that steamer, that Prussian P8, and these guys haven't been run in years. They haven't had the years. They've sat and they've waited to run. I'm personifying them. They've waited to be run. And so letting them air out, letting them do their thing, which is what they were made to do. Hate to see them consigned to the island of misfit toys. This is a winner. And I am going to take out the decoder and replace it with a new one, but I don't know when I'll get that. I'm hoping I can order it this week, but I have to take care of some other things first. And I'm going to put in an order to Lippo for a couple of things. So I will be changing the decoder out on that and giving it sound and everything, because it is preset for it. This is preset to take the bigger sound decoder, because if I pull this up right here, you can see in the light, it already has the base where you would put the speaker, and then you'd put the, you just take out the old decoder and put it in. It does involve some soldering, so Shaky Hands McGee here is going to be nervous about that. But we're going to give it a shot. So Andy, thank you. And if you change your mind and think you need paid for this, I'm more than willing. But otherwise, thank you, and I hope you guys will all enjoy. I hope this guy really puts on a show on my next Friday live stream. But until then, I'm going to say Auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, and happy trains, everybody. Take care.